Hello, this is Alex Calvo Garcia. You're listening to the Iron Hour podcast.
Thank you for tuning in once again to the Iron Hour podcast. I'm your host, Barra. This podcast is sponsored by Best Blanks Wholesale, and I'm joined today by two of my usual. I've got Mr. Marco Poliga. Hello, Marco.
Good evening, morning, whenever you're listening. It's good to be here.
And everybody's favourite politician, Max Bell. How you doing, Max?
I mean, that's sort of like being everybody's favourite brand of cyanide, isn't it, really? I'm not even sure it's true, but even if it were true, it's not a high compliment, is it, Barry?
It was a compliment, nevertheless.
I'm sure somebody out there is the world's funniest German, but look, it might be you. That's all I'm saying.
It might be. Who knows? We've got the usual action-packed podcast coming up for you today. We'll obviously review the Rushall Olympic game. There's clearly a lot to get through on that one, and I can see Marco's disappointed with that already. We've got the usual spy in the camp as we look ahead to the game against Chorley on Saturday. The panel will then tell me what they think ahead of that game. They'll give me their scoreline predictions as well. We'll have our usual hero, idiot, and moment of the week to finish us off. So let's get straight into the game. Let's get straight into the Rushall Olympic review. Max, it was a tough day at the office for Scunthorpe United, wasn't it?
That's the review, isn't it? Basically, the tough day of the office. I mean, I know you were there, Barry. Have you thawed out yet? You didn't sound very happy after the game on Humberside.
No, yeah, not yes, no, yes. No, I don't know what to say, mate. It was a tough. It was a
Just
tough
say
day.
something. I don't care what.
It was a tough day, compounded by the weather.
Yeah, obviously, I think it would be safe to say that had we been due to play Rushall Olympic at home, it probably would have been called off. The grass would have frozen. Although somebody did make a very good point to me, which is that sand doesn't freeze. So maybe that's the angle we were going for. Look, obviously at half-time, we were winning 1-0. We hadn't played brilliantly in the first half, but if you're in front, especially away from home, you'll probably still take that. What were you thinking at half-time?
You know, this is the line that I wheel out every week. I am not one to try and rewrite what I said at the time. And I said at the time, Rushall Olympic will think themselves very unlucky to be going in at half-time, not at least on level terms. I thought that at the time. I still think that now. It was an open game in that first half. Either team could have been ahead. I thought, in my opinion, Rushall was slightly the better team even in the first half. And I thought they would be disappointed to go in a goal down. I, however, thought that was probably as bad as it was going to get. I expected there would be a bit of a rocket up the players' backsides at half-time, and I expected we would probably go on to win the game comfortably, even though my analysis at that point was we'd been below par. I thought class would have got us through it. I mean, sometimes I think I'm a little bit, I don't know what the word is, but I think about last season too much. You know, I rest on those laurels, and I know that we could get away last season with having a poor first 45 because often with Jimmy, you would come out second half and it would be a very, very different performance. And actually, I went to watch Spalding on Tuesday night with our listener, Ben Maben. How you doing, Ben?
Oh, podcast friend.
Podcast friend indeed. And it was the same story for Spalding. You know, Spalding was quite poor in that first half. Jimmy Rocket at half-time, they went on to win the game 2-1, coming from 1-0 down. And that's kind of, they're the levels we got used to last season, and I thought I was probably expecting something similar this on Saturday, even though, as I say, we were technically 1-0 up. But
so Marco, Barra's mentioned there that he's obviously resting on his laurels a little bit in terms of comparing it to last season. You know, another person might call that complacency.
That was the word I was looking for, thank you.
Going into the game, obviously Rushall were bottom. I think everybody, including the bookmakers, were expecting a Scunthorpe win, even if it wasn't necessarily a comfortable one. Do you think some of the players, based on that performance, were complacent going into that game?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I put on X. The best way to sum us up at the minute is we are just so consistently inconsistent, and I think that's perfect at the moment. After losing on Saturday, wouldn't surprise me if we beat Chorley away on Saturday. It's absolutely balmy at the minute. You don't know what you're going to get. Whereas, like Barra says, previously in seasons, we've had a poor first half, even without being 1-0 up at half-time. But second half, we've come out a bit of a different side and really had a go. But obviously, I wasn't at the game, so I can't comment really. But on the radio, it sounded like it was just a bit flat. And Rushall sounded a lot like a better team. But yeah, look, the players at the minute aren't consistent. Annoyingly, before Rushall, it looked like we'd sort of managed to work it out and went on a nice little run. And look, we didn't get many goals, but 6-7 unbeaten to then go to bottom of the league, lose to Rushall. But look, got to give Rushall all the credit we deserve. We've took points off Kidderminster now away in the space of a couple of weeks, and then us at their place. Fair play.
Barra, I'll come to discuss the right back situation in a little bit, but just before we do, obviously we've talked about the first half there, and you said that you were expecting a rocket up the arse, I think was your exact quote, at half time. Based on the performance in the second half, it seems like either that didn't come, or if it did come, it didn't have the desired effect. What changed after the half-time break for the Iron?
We were far too narrow. When we talk about technically and tactics, what happened in that second half, we packed the midfield, which in turn made us very narrow. We had no options out wide. I mean, I know we'll talk about that fullback situation a bit more, but in the second half, what happened was Kelly switched from left back to right back to free scales up into the midfield, and therefore Brad Nicholson came on and played left back. Now, I understand he was playing left back, so he wasn't a centre back, but to have a centre back as our widest player when we were attacking was very disappointing. There was two significant occasions where Clunan got the ball in the middle of the pack, and as he does, he gets a lot of stick for this, but he looked to spread it out wide. He looked right, nothing. He looked left, nothing. And so he had to go back to the centre backs. It was so disappointing, and for me, it's unacceptable. We cannot have no options out wide. It is not a viable way to win a football game at any level. You need options out wide. Even if you are a narrow team, you at least need that relief of a player running out wide from midfield to give you an option to spread it out. We had none of that. The furthest players out wide were the fullbacks. And I must say fullbacks because for once, Butler was not playing wingbacks. They were out and out fullbacks. It was Kelly and Nicholson. They're hardly going to be dynamic, explosive fullbacks, are they? So they were very flat at the back, and there was just no options out wide. And I think that's ultimately what cost us. Now, we could get on to that miss from Beck, and of course, it was a bad one. And we did have chances. Of course, we had enough chances. We could have nicked the game. But I think that would have only papered over the cracks. I think that would have we would have said, we found a way to win. Well, we'd have been lucky to.
Marco, I'll come to you in a second there, but Baron's made a point about the system and the lack of width. I just want to drill down on a little bit more. So I think back to the season we stayed up in the Championship under Nigel Adkins, where particularly at home games, because Clanford Park, particularly at that level, is quite a narrow pitch, there were a number of games where really we're only playing with one winger. You've got Wolford on the left, and then inside you've got any kind of combination of McCann, Togwell, and then either Sparrow on the right hand side tucking in, Thompson on the right hand side tucking in, or even somebody like a Michael O'Connor,
even Ian Morris.
Yeah, exactly. They had options there in terms of how they can press the space out of possession. But obviously, you refer to the Beck missed chance. But what's happening with the wingers? If you're playing four at the back, how would you describe that system set up? Because width shouldn't just be about the fullbacks. There should be players in front of them. Who was playing in front of them? What went wrong with that shape? What shape was it?
You are 100% right. Do you want to take it, Marco?
Yeah, well, look, like you said, you were right. On Saturday, we thought we hit the nail on the head of the Kings Lynn game. And the feedback was just how great it was to see us play with width. E.g. Carlton on the left and Roberts out on the right. And look, like Barry says, at any level, you need to play wingers to cause troubles, to make chances. I feel for Beck a bit. Look, it was a bad miss.
It was so bad that Barra's camera skills couldn't keep up with how far near the corner flag the finish was.
It was. There's no forgiving that. Look, we watched Richie Bennett play football last year. Let's take a step back. To me, there's a player in Beck. Are we playing to his strengths? God, no. Strikers miss chances. it happens. I've seen a lot writing him off, and he's not the answer. And look, he's probably nowhere near Whitehall levels at the minute. That is true. Whitehall's far ahead, and I do think we need to play one or the other. So he's going to be that option off the bench. I think that's not what we bought him in for, but it's just the situation we're in. But no, I agree with both of you. Look, take Whitf out the game, and the strikers are going to just get suffocated and suffocated. And after, I really did think we'd sorted it after the Kings Lynn game, but look, the changes at the back seem to have affected the wingers in front and how they play, and not having the confidence to play that 4-3-3. So let's hope we see a different shape on Saturday. Judging by Butler's interview today, it sounds like there's a right back and a winger coming in, which ironically we haven't seen much of either this season. Any width, so it does sound like there's a little bit of width coming in. So let's just hope it's the plan is to go back to the 4-3-3, which we saw a little bit of success with. Because I mean, is Carlton ever going to score? I know we're saying about Beck. You feel like when Carlton gets this one goal, he will go on a bit of a run, I think. But I mean, he was so unlucky to not score, on Saturday. I know he scored the goal from it, but you are just really urging him to get that goal. But no, not formation-wise. We're sick of saying it. We said it for weeks before we had a little good run. We do need width.
So Barrow, obviously we've touched on the full-backs and the way in which the uncertainty there, sort of in Marco's mind, has maybe upset the rhythm out wide, higher up the pitch. Let's address the elephant in the room. Starting at right back as a proper full-back, not as a wing-back, was Kean Scales. Do you think that backfired on us?
Yes. Can I just answer the question you asked me earlier? So
I know. Yeah. Go on.
Yeah,
answer whatever question you like.
So it was Roberts and Carlton out wide. Now, what we've talked about before on the podcast, Max, is particularly at the Peterborough Sports game. Remember how we talked about the wingers would rotate. So your left mid will turn up on the right and vice versa. We didn't see that on Saturday. There was kind of no freedom with the wingers, if that makes sense. And let's be honest, Roberts had, for his usual high standards, he did have a below par game. I think most people
actually. But sorry, just on that point, very very briefly, I think you're right. But does that show a point that we've probably all feared for quite long parts of the season? Are we very reliant on Roberts? If he has a bad game, do we have a bad game?
Nailed on. I don't know that he had a bad game, but he was certainly below his usual levels, right? But he was probably still the best.
Good distinction.
He was possibly still one of the best players on the pitch, but he's certainly not what you would expect from a Callum Roberts on Saturday, and that hurt us massively. Now, coming back to what you asked me there about the fullbacks and what happened, again, I'll repeat what I said last week. It would be very naive if Butler goes into the Rushall game and thinks he can get away with not signing a right back, considering he's gone on Humberside and said there are options in the building at right back ready to explore if I want to. If I want to sign a right back, they've told me I can. I'm looking at people, I'll bring somebody in. The only exception would be if he had the dream right back lined up, but he just needed another week to get it over the line. You know, that he was at a club on loan and they needed an extension or something like that. If that was the case, I'd concede the point and I'd be okay with it. And I'd say, do you know what? You can get away the Rushall game. Try what you need to try. Put Scales at right back. Do what you need to do to get through. But considering Butler then said post-match on Rushall, well, obviously this is highlighted to me. I do need a right back, so I'll bring one in the week. It tells me that it was naive. A little bit naive, not quite naive, very naive, and bordering on amateurish. If I'm being brutally honest,
brutal. I thought I was meant to be the miserable, outrageous one.
I am sorry.
No, you're not. Don't lie.
No, I am. But what I mean by that though is, I'm surprised. We thought as a club we could get away with it for a full game of playing a makeshift situation, and then having that being compounded then by having to put Nicholson at left back and Kelly at right back, so you had no preferred fullbacks on the pitch. You know, Kelly was playing in a position he doesn't usually play in, the other side, and Nicholson was playing in a position he doesn't usually play in. So we finished the game all over the shop at 6s and 7s, which again is a little bit amateur. It is a little bit amateur, mate.
So before we move on, Marco, just one final question there in terms of, you know, we've mentioned the missed chances. Obviously, you talked about Beck and Richie Bennett. think I'm still slightly scarred of that chance against York in the National League. He sent 15 yards over the bar. But I want to flip it on its head in a way and talk about the actual defending in terms of the amount of goals we've now been conceding, particularly away from home, particularly in big games. Right at the start of the season, we'd have been pretty confident of scoring one goal away at Rushall would have been enough to win the game. Now, it wasn't even enough to get a point out of the game. Does the way in which we've started conceding more goals over the last 2 to 3 months, does that concern you?
I was definitely concerned. Again, annoyingly, I'm going to resort back to the little run of performance we went on. Sound white butter a minute. But it looked like we got it sorted. It looked like quite a settled back four. We were speaking how Nicholson wasn't involved, but we had good options on the bench, bringing obviously Evans on the bench and Nicholson, sometimes not even making the squad. So a comfortable back four of Denton, Boyce, Coogan, and obviously Barrows. And that seemed to be doing the trick. But yeah, like you said, especially against with all due respect, some of the lesser teams, obviously Rushall at the bottom of the table, to be conceded as many goals as we are, and look, most Scunthorpe fans will have seen the goals. It's poor all round. It's not just the back four. It seems to be coming through the midfield and basic defending. And it's not like that bad form was in where it was just individual errors. And Butler said that a lot, and there's nothing he can really do about that. But especially on Saturday, you could see what the shape and the defending in general was just very poor. So look, it's something that needs to be addressed. If there's anyone who will address that, it's going to be Butler. Let's be honest. That will have really pissed him off on Saturday, I think, just the way we conceded. But look, it was a very makeshift defence. So look, I do feel for him a bit. Like Barra said, it was naive going into that game without a right back. Scales isn't the answer to a right back problem, and Scales debatably the man of the match against Kings Lynn to then get taken out of centre mid into right back does seem a bit odd. But look, we didn't know the scenario behind the scenes with getting a right back in. But said right back who seems to be coming to sign. So look, we'll see if that makes a difference. The way he was speaking sounds like he's going to come straight into the team. So I would expect to see Scales in midfield again on Saturday and on Tuesday against Chorley.
Right, Barrett, take charge.
Yeah, well, just a couple more things. I also feel a little bit for Butler. He will feel, no doubt, that he's been let down by those players on Saturday. I'm sure that's how he feels. He'll have been leaving Rushall on Saturday and think they've let me down a little bit today. But equally, not getting a right back in has also let us down. So I think he would accept that as well. Just a little bit on Mark Beck. I'm going to pull in a random comparison here, Max, and I wonder if it triggers a memory with you. Whenever I look at Mark Beck and how his run's going and the hype that was around him when he landed at the club, all I can think of is Billy Key. That kind of like aura around the player where Wilcox brought him in thinking it would just take us to that next level. It would just help us push on, which is exactly what Butler thought. Probably just help us get closer to that promotion spot. And he's just not scored. He's missed some sitters. He's not really got into games as we would have hoped. And it's become very predictable. So I know shape-wise, obviously size-wise, there's a bit of a difference there. But all I can think
I was going to say, I don't remember Billy Key being 6'6".
Well, no, because if he was, the club would have announced it when we signed him.
To be fair, I know Billy Key obviously had a lot going on off the pitch.
Yeah. It
was such a shame we didn't see him because at that level, I do understand us signing him.
Well, Max, I don't know if you remember this, but you were stood very close to me when we played Worcester in the FA Cup, the first game at our place. And I started a chant of, you dirty non-league, such and such. And you turned to me and went, Northern? They're bloody more south. I said, no, non-league, not Northern. I don't know if you remember that. But the point being,
I don't remember that. But the revelation that I would mishear somebody is not at all shocking.
Well, I think you turned around and said, this country's gone to bloody rack and ruin. Worcester's up north.
See, now that sounds like something I would say.
But that game, Billy Key missed a very similar kind of chance. And that's all I could think when I was driving home from Rushall. I thought, oh my God, it's Billy Key against Worcester.
So basically, what you're saying we needed a replay against Rushall.
Yeah, penalties.
About 35 penalties.
Well, we might have scored. We'd have had 35 pointless. We might have scored one.
Yeah, I mean, you could take your pick with big strikers missing chances. I mean, you go back to your nut alls. Obviously, we mentioned Bennett. It's something we're getting used to seeing at Scunny. And look, the level we're at, we're going to see definitely going to see more of it. Whether that's Beck and look, Whitehall missed chances, and he has done as well. But look, getting on Beck's back is not the way to go. We've signed him for money. He's not getting sent back to another club. He's with us now. And like I say, you don't score them goals that he has done at other clubs in the higher league if you've got absolutely zero about you. There's definitely a player there, but no doubt he's very low on confidence at the minute.
Can I chuck one to you, Mark? So Butler had obviously said on Humberside on Thursday that one of the players that's coming in, we know a right back is coming in, but one of the players that's coming in is a forward player, someone who can play anywhere along the three. What does that mean for Carlton?
It's a very good question. It depends what kind of front three player I would say. It might not necessarily.
It would be surprising if it was an out-and-out centre forward, considering you've got Beck and White.
No, potentially, but then it could be. Well, let's not beat about the bush here. It could be a number 10, and Callum Roberts could be leaving. There's more than one option there, and look, if we sign a player that looks very similar in profile to Carlton, then that might make you think, oh, okay. Not sure how that's going to work, but we don't know yet. I wouldn't want to predict the future and get it wrong. We'll save that for the score predictions later on. But I would generally say that having options in the final third is never a bad thing. But our wage budget is comparatively restricted to last season, so you want to make sure that any resources we are spending on the pitch, we're getting the best possible bang for our buck. And both in terms of the right back and a winger, if that's what we're expecting. Look, we'll see.
I mean, never mind Carlton. What about Law? Are we going to see Law?
Well, he got on the pitch on Saturday.
Yeah, I know, but in bad circumstances.
If you don't get on Saturday, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, look.
There's another point that Marco makes. If a player comes in, Law might go out. So that might be how to make the sums add up.
100%. You can't have. Look, for a team that's not played with wingers all year, you can't have four on the books at once. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, you've got Roberts, Carlton, Law, and then another player coming in who plays
Williams, like Chuck Williams in there because he could play anywhere.
Williams came in as what we all thought wing or a 10, similar to Roberts. So look, you have so many options there to bring another one in. It's like, I mean, affordability, like Max says. Look, our wage structure isn't the same as last season. Is one leaving? Let's just get on that.
We forgot Max Brogan, by the way.
Brogan can play there. Yeah, look, I mean, Butler at a minute, guessing his formation, it's so tough. So, look, to bring a right back and a winger in or someone who can play at front, it does point in the direction of us going a 4-3-3, you'd think, which is what I think we've seen most success with, other than early on in the season over 5. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if one or two go out. And look, there'll be some suitors for Law. Law goes to another team in this league, and look, Chester have lost big players, Darlington have lost big players. A lot of side, Leamington lost that. A lot of teams will be interested in players of Law's calibre, and same with Carlton. Carlton won't be the one to go. I do think it'll be Law because it's been unfavoured since the beginning. Yeah,
Carlton would be disappointed considering he's just got a little bit of a run in. And
there's a player there. There's a player there. The thing with Carlton, he's the best way to describe him a minute is chaos. Yeah. He is just
well said.
I describe it as a speedboat with no driver. He is literally he can do a
good thing because you don't know what's going to happen. It's
but
carnage.
Yeah, but neither does he. It's like
that was a plot in The Simpsons, wasn't it, where the speedboat went around solving crimes.
That is literally, and he does the hard work, and then he just doesn't seem to have that not bit of nous and calm on the ball to really be the player that we've seen he can be. And he's like a puzzle at the minute. He just needs to be put together. And Carlton is definitely a player. He's got all the attributes. He's pacey. He's powerful. And looking at the goals he scored last year, he can obviously finish, but he just needs to do it in a Scunthorpe shirt.
I do wonder.
Actually, obviously, we got him from Chorley. Wouldn't that be perfect? Isn't Saturday's tomorrow's game going to be exactly the chance? If I was a Scunthorpe fan and the opposition were playing a lad who's an attacking winger out wide, who hadn't scored all season, but you sort of knew that had a bit of quality, I'd be thinking he's flipping guaranteed to score against us.
No, that's only against us. Yeah, I'm going to say, man, you knew. I'm amazed. Spencer didn't bag against us at Curs, and every game I go into and I see a former Scunthorpe player on the other side, I'm like, brilliant. Here we go. All started with Canavan. I think it was Plymouth when he scored it, gone for Park past us, and it was written, wasn't it, that Manton were going to score on Saturday. It was always going to happen.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I can remember going away to Salford in League Two, and Cameron Burgess scored for them. Whilst he was on loan from us.
Oh, is there ever a more Scunthorpe thing than us giving another player to a team to score against us?
Yeah, I'm forgetting to put in a loan clause.
They do that in Italy. That's the thing in Italy. They don't have that system where they can't play against other teams. And I find it balmy.
You see it in the Champions League, I believe, because was it Courtois? I believe UEFA have a specific rule where you're not allowed to enforce that rule in European competitions. But because Barrow might remember this, when we were in the Championship, Ian Barracoff, we went away to Preston, and we had Eddie Nolan on loan from them, and honestly, put in the best performance I've ever seen from any left back ever. He won 3 thunderous tackles in the space of about 40 seconds, and in the end, the Preston fans just cracked and went berserk.
what I'd do for another Eddie Nolan.
Well, thank you, Max, for teeing us up there talk about Carlton, and I wonder what the Chorley fans think about Carlton Obazuna. Well, let's find out, because we have now our spy in the camp. My guest this week is a man who's been on the podcast before, but it's Richard Scott. Now, Richard, you were on before talking to us about Newcastle Town, because obviously we played them in twice in the FA Cup earlier on in the season, and you work on Moreland's radio, so I hope I've got the name of that radio station right.
Yeah.
And obviously you were giving us a great insight into Newcastle Town, but for those listeners that maybe don't know, you are, of course, a Chorley fan.
I am, yeah. I would say for me sins, but I actually quite enjoy being a Chorley fan. It's something a little bit different when you throw it into a conversation, in my workplace, because Moreland's radio is a voluntary job, but in my workplace, I've got a Newcastle United fan, I've got an Arsenal fan, a Manchester United fan, and I'm just like, yes, put Chorley. And it does bring up a few interesting conversations with people who are Chorley, and I know I've had it quite a lot of times, people asking who are Chorley, and so I'm used to it, but it is quite fun. And I think I would say over the last 15 years or so now, the club has been on a real upward trajectory from where they were. That started in 2010 with the appointment of former Blackburn Rovers captain Gary Flitcroft, and then he brought his old teammate in, Matt Jansen, who was his first team coach, became an assistant manager, then manager, and then it sort of all snowballed up from there. But yeah, I really do think Gary Flitcroft should be credited with the rise that Chorley have been on over the last 15 years, and long may that continue.
I mean, there's a good little history lesson there. I mean, what do you think is the not expectation, but the views, the kind of concept around Chorley? Do you think people see them as being promotion contenders?
Well, I like to think so, and we've been up there pretty much every season, apart from 2 seasons since our promotion into the National League North back in 2014. We've been to a couple of playoff finals, had a playoff final heartbreak at home to Guiseley and away at FC Halifax Town. We won the playoffs in 2019 and got promoted to the National League, and then COVID brought us back down. But the club were going to be relegated anyway. I think the last weekend of the football season, Chorley were due to be at Bromley. The game got postponed because there was a suspect case of COVID in, I think it was in the Chorley camp. I don't think it turned out actually to be COVID, but the game got called off for safety reasons. And I think had they lost at Bromley, I think it would have been mathematically impossible for Chorley to stay up. Whether this season they can be playoff contenders again, it's a tough one. They have had so many injuries, which we'll probably talk about in a bit, to the first team squad. But then equally, you look at budgets, and football is really controlled by budgets, isn't it, these days, right from the Premier League down to below the levels I cover, Northern Premier League, where we find Newcastle, of course, and our other local clubs, and up in Lancashire, the likes of Bamber Bridge and what have you. It's just controlled, and I don't know anything really about the budgets of the various National League North clubs, but I think we certainly wouldn't be up there as the big budgets. Probably same if you speak to Curzon Ashton, I don't think they will be either. But it's nice to see Curzon Ashton doing quite well with the small, I would say, the small attendances they got and the small budget they've probably got, and it's probably the same if you look at Chorley's budgets if they were to ever be published.
I mean, looking at the table, just got it in front of me here. Currently in 8th.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bit of a misnomer at the moment because of the games played and the weather
Yeah.
we've had. There's a lot of teams kind of making up ground. I mean, we've played 25, but Kings Lynn have played 26, but yourselves obviously only played 23. Now, one of those games in hand was on Tuesday night against Peterborough Sports. Disappointing result, 0-0 at home.
Yeah, right. I was quite disappointed when I saw it. I was actually at Newcastle Town on Tuesday night covering their game. But when I had a look at full time and saw it was a 0-0 draw, I was disappointed because no disrespect to Peterborough Sports, but at home to them, we should be getting 3 points. I watched the highlights earlier. There was a very much a case for a penalty in the first half, surely, when Michael Gash seemed to just jump into Mark Ellis in the penalty area from a corner, and how the referee's not giving it, I don't know. And then there was a couple of other decisions. We at the bar, Peterborough Sports hit the post, and I think listening to Andy Priest's post-match interview, he was pleased with a point because the game didn't pan out how he was expecting. But as I say, you should be winning at home, especially against sides like Peterborough Sports and the like in the division.
You mentioned Mark Ellis there, obviously a defender, but he's chipped in with 4 goals so far this season. There's a couple of 4 players on 4 goals. There's Mo Turai, Mark Ellis, Mike Calverley, and Craig Hewitt all on 4 goals. Now, that doesn't scream to me a team who have got a big goal scorer, a team that is scoring at will. So, are you a set piece team? Would you say?
Yeah, probably are you. Mark Ellis, big defender. As you say, he's got 4 goals, and most of the goals do seem to come from corners and set pieces. I think at the start of the season, certainly there was that. But going back over the years, Chorley have never really had, and certainly in my time of watching them, and I've been watching them for really coming up to this Christmas, it'd be 20 years since I've really first started having a run of watching Chorley games and being a Chorley fan. I can only ever really think of 3 strikers who have really challenged for the Golden Boot. One who won it in 2013, 2012, Steve Foster, and then Peter Wright in that first season. I was watching in 05-06, and then later on after Foster, a couple of years ago, we had James Dean, who sadly is no longer with us. He was a real menace. I think he scored, I think in the last 2 seasons of the Flitcroft era, when he was really at his most permanent, I think he scored like 50 goals in nearly 100 games or something. He was like getting a goal every other game. He was really on it for us. But sadly, since then, we haven't had strikers. And we've also actually been cursed in terms of top goal scorers. Is over the last 2 summers, we've lost, both summers, we've lost that season's top 2 goal scorers. So not last season before, Connor Hall went to Solihull Moors and then has gone to Brackley Town. And then we lost John Eustabesi to AFC Fylde. And then some have just gone, you guys pinched Carlton office. And then Macclesfield came in for Justin Johnson. And there was quite a lot of talk because Macclesfield, obviously, Northern Premier League Premier, is he stepping down a division and, taking the easy option. But you're playing for 3,000, 4,000 a week. You're top of the Northern Premier League by about 16 points. Only lost 3 games all season. You're managed by a former Wales international and Strictly Come Dancing star. You're a semi-professional footballer at the end of the day. You're going to take that. He's probably offered more money than what Chorley could afford. And so I don't blame him. I don't blame any of them. If they've been offered a chance to go and, move into full-time football, certainly probably all 4 of them, you could say, because I won't be surprised if Macclesfield go full-time soon, especially if they do get promoted into this division. Then you can't blame them for going full-time, because Chorley certainly at the moment won't be able to offer full-time football and very much our part-time team, even though they say you do play the hybrid training session.
No, I mean, Macclesfield is an example. There might not be full-time on paper, but certainly in terms of the wages and the
Yeah.
preparation, there is, when you look at that hybrid model, they're right at the top end of transitioning over to, I think we would all accept that. But I mean, I just want to talk about Carlton Ubazuna. You mentioned him there, 15
Yeah.
goals last season. He's not scored one yet for us. It's
No.
been very stop and start, and
Yeah.
we're yet to work out if he's in fact a winger or a striker. Now, listening to a lot of his interviews earlier on in the season, actually one recently on BBC Radio Humberside, he mentioned that at Chorley, he was basically playing as a centre forward, which is not what we've seen at all.
No.
He's kind of played either on the left or on the right of an advanced front three, and really at times those forward attackers have been kind of swapping sides, and we're yet to see him in a central role. Would that surprise Chorley fans, do you think?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, he come from Farsley Celtic the previous summer, and I think there was a bit of a going. The feeling was why we're signing the Farsley Celtic play. We're looking to move into the National League. It has to be said. We should be trying to sign players at least who are not quite good enough for the National League, but certainly helps on the way. But it came top goal scorer, seemed to be quite well liked by supporters in the club, and then obviously moved to Scunthorpe. So it's a tough one to see, but I'm sure they'll be pleased to see him on the side, and they'll hopefully he'll be able to continue his record of not scoring yet this season, at least until after Saturday come 5 o'clock.
Sometimes you've just got a feeling, haven't you?
Yeah,
and I've got a feeling. Now, I've got a feeling it's due on, and when players are due a goal, they always seem to play against their ex clubs and do some damage.
Yeah.
Now, we've obviously played you already this season at our place. It ended 1-1, and it was a late equaliser, and I think they were the first points we dropped this season. Chorley quite impressive, actually. I seem to think, and since then, it's kind of faded at times for Scunthorpe. We've had a couple of good runs, but a defeat away at Rushall on Saturday was the latest kind of setback. What will Chorley be expecting of Scunthorpe, do you think, on Saturday?
I think it'd be a tough game, without saying, you look at the history of Scunthorpe United, former championship side, going to be bringing a big attendance, following with them down to Lancashire, no doubt, on Saturday. And I know Andy Priest, manager, said in his post-match interview on Tuesday night that he was expecting a big following, and he wants the Chorley fans to come out and be vocal behind the Chorley players on Saturday, because I think going back to the Tuesday night game, he said it felt like it was a Lancashire Cup time, which is our county cup. It just felt, or an FA Cup replay against a Northern Premier League side where you were expected to win, so there wasn't that need to be the 12th man. They'll just get the job done. But Saturday is one of those games where they need to be the 12th man, get behind the players and really push them on. But the thing with Chorley is when they always have a big game, so like when Kidderminster come, Chester or Darlington, or even in the past when they went to Tamworth in the FA Trophy 11 years ago now, and it was the big game, and it was the everything was all up for grabs and at stake. The Chorley players do put in that extra 10%, as do the fans, and really do get behind them.
I was very impressed actually when I went last season. I was impressed with the setup. It was segregated, but I got the impression that there was a bit of reluctance there to segregate them, because it's harder to manage, isn't it? But I guess then you're a little bit more reassured. But I was very, very impressed with the setup. But any final message for Ryan fans that might be listening to this on what they can expect on Saturday?
Yeah, just enjoy your trip to Lancashire. As you say, it's a lovely ground. It's an old school ground, big main stand. Scunthorpe fans will be in the Frank Powell stand once again, which is that little small stand. Great for acoustics if you can pack that and you want to make a bit of noise and what have you. I've been speaking to a friend of mine, Chorley Away Days on Twitter. I think you know him, South Barrett. He's told me ideal pubs for Scunthorpe fans is the White Bull and the Crown pubs there. The White Bull's just in the town centre. It's about a 9-minute walk from the ground. I mean, obviously, you've got to go to the away turnstiles, which I think is a bit further on. And what have you? The other one, the Crown, is near the train station. So anyone going on the train, I think you just come out of the train station. It's a bit of a convoluted way to get out of Chorley train station, unfortunately, looking at Google Maps. But I think if you can get straight across the dual carriageway, it's near the bus station. And whilst you're down at Chorley, don't forget to pick up your butter pies, guys. They're the local delicacy.
Of course, yeah. One thing that I remember actually about that away stand is you come out and it backs onto a little bit of grass. It's not a massive field, but there's almost like a park. And there was a football cage, and I remember I took my lad, and he ended up having a kickabout with a kid from Chorley who wasn't at the game, was just playing. So I remember I was like, "Come on, the game's about to start, mate." No, go on.
I was going to say that's quite a famous part for myself because how I got into watching Chorley was they used to have a soccer school, and I attended that. And before they put that cage in, it was completely grass, and there was little small like metal goals, and I took my first footballing steps on it. My career didn't turn out the way I was hoping it was going to be as a footballer, but that's where I started playing. It's a lovely little part of it, and I know it quite well.
Well, thank you very much for your time. And I mean, if we get Newcastle Town again in the cup, we'll get you back on. And if, of course, neither of us go up or we both go up, we'll have you back on again next season.
Excellent, thank you.
As always, it's been a pleasure, Rich. Thank you very much.
No problem, thank you.
Well, that was very interesting. So Richard Scott making a comeback on the INR podcast, obviously on last time talking about Newcastle Town, but here in the guise of a Chorley fan. He mentioned there about Carlton probably being a centre forward, Max. Again, I know we've talked about him just before we had that segment, but do we need to see him in more of a central role, do you think?
I'm not as convinced, no, given the previous discussion we've had about the lack of width we've got, and also it's horses for courses, depending on what kind of side you are. You know, we know traditionally, Butler himself talked about it in the post-match unsigned interview after the Rushall game, where he's expecting Chorley to be a big, strong, physical, direct side. So we have to adequately assess how we're going to get round that, how we're going to beat them. And in my view, it would be with exactly the same kind of setup and play that we got at home with Kings Lynn. Let's get the ball wide, let's move it quickly, let's get at them in the final third, and let's call them problems. And, you know, I think back to Chorley away last season, let's try and not get somebody sent off completely needlessly.
Marco, obviously, coming before we get to Chorley, there's some players maybe to come back in, but what are you hoping to see from Scunthorpe United at Chorley on Saturday?
A reaction from Saturday. And I think, look, if they can't get up for Saturday after such a flat performance previously, then I'd be slightly worried. So yeah, like Max says, it'll be tough, it'll be physical. We've shown we can get around sides like that. I just hope we don't do what we've done previously, and that's set up to try and deal with them rather than them worrying about us coming to them. Look, that sounds like Jimmy Dean here, but we're Scunthorpe United. But it's true. We've got a lot of threats up front, and we've got squads that a lot of teams would die for. So it should really be on us to take the game to them. And a Kings Lynn-esque performance, it'd be fantastic.
I thought it was really good of Richard there to give us a lot of information about the away day at Chorley, including the pubs that we can get to. But he also asked me to put this message out there because he forgot to say this. Make sure you get your tickets online. £15 adults, under 12's free. I think there's a couple of other categories, but it's £18 to pay on the day. So there is obviously a reduced rate if you get your tickets online. So make sure you do that, Iron fans. Obviously there, Max, again, we had some great information from Richard about the away day. Are you excited for this one?
I am, particularly as it's the one of 2 games a year when I get to crack out all the cheesy Phoenix Knights jokes. See, Marco's shaking his head, but I know Marco loves them. Do you want to make one, Marco, or do you want me to?
Yeah, well, we're going to go for the obvious, coming in your ears.
Yes. Or underrated second one, Chorley FM, where the listener comes first.
And that's what we're about on the Iron Hour podcast. Yeah. And thanks for listening.
The Iron Hour podcast.
And to anybody under the age of 30 who hasn't watched Phoenix Knights, there's a TV recommendation for you.
Right, do you want to hit us up with some score predictions then? Marco, go first. What do you think?
I am sick to death of being so wrong, but 2-0. I think it's written. Carlton scores. Carlton scores. If there's any bookmaker who will do me odds on a Carlton goal,
well, trust me, mate. There'll be a bookmaker who'll do you some odds on that.
I'll have my dad ringing. He said, "I'll give you whatever odds you want. Whatever odds you want, I'll match." But no, I do think we can't be as flat and poor as we were on Saturday. So I'm not. I hate being so optimistic, but yeah, 2-0. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a good day out. Chorley really good at promoting the day. Scunthorpe fans know the pubs. I'd be interested to see how many we take. So I don't know roughly what did we take last year.
Can't remember. It was quite packed. I reckon about 400, maybe 500.
Yeah, I think probably about 500 this Saturday. It's dry. Day out in Manchester, so I'm looking forward to it, and let's hopefully the result backs it up as well.
They're a good club, Chorley. Do you remember the incentive they had over Christmas with the Christmas dinners? They're a really good club. Max, do you want to hit us up with your score prediction?
Yeah, I could see the away following being hit a little bit. We're getting second half of January, which is a long month when people have been paid pre-Christmas, bills. We were pretty crap on Saturday. Look, I could be wrong, but I could see maybe taking a bit of a hit. Particularly with my score prediction, which genuinely is 0-0. I think it's... Look, I know you've thrown me that look, but you wouldn't be shocked, would you?
No.
But would you take it?
No.
If they offered you 0-0 now?
So if you offered me it now, no. But in isolation, do you get full time and do you hate the results? Depends on the performance, doesn't it? I just think, particularly if we've got a new right back coming in, it's trying to fix the defensive errors. It's the low-hanging fruit for a defensive-minded coach. And I don't think it's controversial to say that Butler does price clean sheets. And surely, again, if we get to that point of the game when there's 15 to 20 minutes to go and the scoreline's level, so not even necessarily 0-0, it could be 1-1, will both sides settle? I thought they did at Chorley last year. I've seen it with other games with us this season, and it wouldn't necessarily shock me if both sides settled for a point, because it's better than nothing. And actually, look, a point away at Chorley isn't in isolation, or wouldn't be the worst result in the world.
It'd be okay if we followed it up with a win on Tuesday. That's
well, yeah, exactly. Or if we'd preceded it with a win away at Rushall. So, I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's a goals fest. But look, gun to my head, 0-0.
To be positive, I'm expecting a big response. I think Butler will get it right this week. I think he knows he needs to. And as I say, I think he will think he's been let down by the players. I would expect some changes. I think he would be disappointed with some performances on Saturday, and I think he'll make some changes that will surprise some people. So I'm going 3-1 Scunthorpe United on Saturday.
Ooh, a hat trick.
No,
Boys hat trick.
Yeah, boys will score. Boys will score. Boys to men. Boys will get a goal. Carlton will get a goal, and I reckon Michael Clunan will chip in.
Now, if Michael Clunan scores, there's a very good chance I won't make it home. I am out for a full day, so if Michael Clunan scores, you will find me in Leeds Pop World.
Don't know what's in this water, but so yeah, right, okay. We've got through the serious stuff. Let's move on then to our hero idiot moment of the week. That is assuming there are no final comments from our panel. Speak up now or forever hold your peace.
Oh, it's like being at a controversial wedding.
Yeah.
Have you seen that clip where they do that and like it's an outdoor wedding, and then in the field next door, a massive cow, absolute top of its voice, when the priest goes, "Speak now or forever hold your peace." All you hear is the cow go, "Moo!" I feel like that's us.
No, it's a nice anecdote that I do like. You should do some after dinner speaking, and I'm not even being sarcastic. That was nice.
Yeah, you are. And yeah. Anecdote implies that I was there, as opposed to like this was just a video I saw. I'm not moonlighting as a priest, am I?
Moonlighting.
Yay. See, there we go, Barra. That whole nonsense was just setting up Marco for that.
Of course it was. I mean, we obviously have our usual hero idiot and moment of the week coming up, and I'm just frantically trying to scroll through my messages, Marco, because I want to give a big shout out to my hero of the week, Mr. Paul Hicks, who sent the I Know Podcast Facebook page a comment, a message, which you showed me. And I tried to reply to him from my account, but it wouldn't let me because we weren't connected. So I just want to say to you, Paul, thank you so much for tuning in on a regular basis to the INL podcast. I had a little look at your profile. It looks like you're into BJJ. So as a combat sports fan myself, that's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to you,
But I didn't know where we're going. As soon as that conversation started, it looked like you're into BJ. Please, God, be another letter.
So as a combat sports enthusiast myself, if you do want to be my friend, send me a request. And
also, on that note, not just Paul, we get so many messages saying how a lot of people obviously can't get to the games every week, so we use us as that sort of bridge to still stay close to the club. We really do appreciate it. And look, if people didn't listen, we won't bother doing this. So it does mean a lot, and it does get fed back to the guys if you do send us messages if it's on X or if it's on Facebook, and we do appreciate it.
And you were more than welcome to come and speak to me because, if anything, it would have made me look cool in front of my lads. So,
oh God,
in future, if you do want to give me cool points with my lad,
I bet when people come to speak to you at games, that's what your kids are thinking. I was, wow, isn't Daddy cool?
I love that. Barry gets that, and I've been bought beers regularly at Scunthorpe. It's very different. Like, I don't go to Barry, but they see me and think he needs more beer.
And genuinely, do you know what I get? People coming and moaning about broken walls outside their house and why their bins haven't been collected. So, well, look, we get all the good chat at away games.
Indeed. Right, let's have our usual hero idiot moment of the week. Marco, who's your hero of the week?
Hero? Mine's a bit soppy. But look, I was watching Nottingham Forest versus Liverpool the other day, and it was so refreshing to see Ryan Yates playing in the middle of the park, having a cracking game, and such a good use of the loan system. Obviously, he was at ourselves, and his career has just gone up another level. Look, he was in a good period, a really good squad we had at that time, and you could see he was a very talented player. Did I think he'd be in the Premier League with a team with Nottingham Forest in the Champions League places? No. But no, it's such a great lad. Plays football with his heart on his sleeve. And really made me not emotional, but really good to see him playing well. And Ryan Yates.
Marco moved to tears watching Liverpool versus Forest.
I'll have to kill me because she said I've got no heart and no emotion. imagine she comes down and says, "What are you crying at?" Oh, bloody Ryan Yates has just made this 10-yard pass.
So, who's your hero of the week, Max?
Right, genuinely, and I've written this down because I thought I'd try and suck up to Barra for a bit. My hero is Barra's dad, because not only did he give us this beautiful podcast house, but I understand it's his birthday next week, sometime later this week.
It was his birthday last week. Friday.
Well, there we go. A late happy birthday to Steve from everybody at the INR podcast, and hopefully the Scunny away at Chorley tomorrow will give him a nice big fat 3 points as a present.
Well, the Rushall Olympic game was his present, and that was an absolute damn squib, let me tell you. And actually, you being a sycophant has gone against you there. Marco gets the points, but my dad appreciates it nonetheless.
See, Marco, told you he wouldn't.
Idiot of the week, Max, let's stick with you.
My idiot of the week is the collective, and unfortunately, it's Scunthorpe United. I thought we were complacent against Rushall. I thought we assumed that we just go there and win. We've been the small club in divisions higher up. We've been bottom of the table, and we've hosted big clubs at home to us, and we've sent them packing. Thought Rushall were the best side. Thought they deserved to win, and we were deservedly left with egg on our face, I thought.
That is a good answer, actually. Marco, who's your idiot of the week?
It'd be too easy to say Pep again because that's my answer every week. But it's not. It's the chip shop. I went to Scotland for my birthday the other day. I went to a chippy, and whilst they were cooking my fish and chips, they were trying to convince me that deep frying pizza was a normal thing to do. I said, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I said, you won't convince me. And also then went on to cook some terrible fish and chips. They are my idiots of the week.
Have you ever tried the deep fried Mars bar?
deep fried Mars bar, I will allow. But
Of course
not
you will.
pizza. Yeah.
Look at you.
Oh, that's just rude. That is just rude. So obviously, Barrow will give me points now. I will be suing.
I'm going to be double rude and give the points to Max because
Course you are.
being at Rushall on Saturday, I can tell you there is only one answer. So it means we are all level going into moment of the week. So Marco, what was your moment of the week?
I don't know if you've all seen it. It's very popular on X at the minute. But the Lazio, their emblem is a falcon. Before the games, they have a falconer who releases said falcon across the stadium. It's all very nice. He has had his contract terminated due to pictures being leaked. Well, not leaked, put online by himself.
He took them. He took these pictures.
Yeah, a very proud selfie of him and his new penis implant. It's absolutely outstanding. And look, I put on X the other day, Serie A's believe it just keeps on giving. And look, that just fits straight in. It's
Did you see
brilliant.
what somebody commented?
The footballer.
No, they just put Willie Falconer.
Brilliant. Absolutely outstanding. But yeah, it was brilliant. I mean, Lazio were very lenient with what they class as acceptable. And the fact that it's a penis implant is the only thing that's managed to get him sacked is very odd.
Fascist salutes, fine. making your Johnson a bit bigger, mate, that's too far.
Max, what was your moment of the week?
I mean, look, I'm not beating that, am I?
Unless you make a big announcement that you've had a breaking news.
I don't know if anybody's ever. I don't know. Hopefully, a couple of listeners to this would have seen Red Dwarf. There's a bit where Crichton, the robot, briefly becomes human, and he's going, "It's a double Polaroid." Look, I'm happy to say that my moment of the week literally doesn't involve a penis, and that's because my moment of the week was I think I was channel flicking and sort of ended up having it a bit on in the background. It was in the US. I wish. Before Barra starts making that face, but then when I say that this involves women's tennis, you might just go back to that same joke. The American women's tennis player called Danielle Collins was playing in the Australian Open against an Australian, and I'm going to try and pronounce her name correctly, and say Destiny Iava, which definitely sounds like it could be a pseudonym.
Right.
But the crowd of rabid Australian tennis fans were not very happy that the American was winning and she was getting absolute dog's abuse. Turned round, put her her hand to her ear to cup it, and went, "You pay my bills," because quite rightly, she's pointing out that all the tennis fans there had gone to shout abuse at her because she was beating an Australian. Well, actually, she's going to get a cut of that ticket money. And I just thought sometimes fans of all sports, not just football, not just tennis, think they can rock up and give players dog's abuse. And up to a point, that's fine. But every now and then, I think it adds a lot to the sport when the players give a little bit back.
Yeah.
And, I really liked what she did. I thought it showed proper gumption and, made me smile anyway.
That's a great answer, but it's not penis enlargement. So Marco gets a point when he wins.
To be fair, watching Australian versus an American playing women's tennis, you would just hope that both people lose.
There are no winners.
No one wins there.
Right, well, that wraps it up, and I think it just keeps us under the hour. So thank you for tuning in to the Iron Hour podcast, and we'll see you next week with a special surprise, a special treat, because we have recorded an episode with an Iron legend, an ex-Iron legend. I can reveal he was promoted with Scunthorpe United. That's all I can say at this time, but thank you for tuning in. We'll have more information on that next week. Up the Iron.
Up the Iron.